What's going on YouTube? It's Nick MSFS here and welcome back to the channel. I got ridiculously good support on my previous video here on Flight Simulator and I thought, you know what, we got to get back into it. So, well, we're here. We are in Jindabyne today. Well, not really, but we're going to be taking off there in Flight Simulator and we're going to be navigating ourselves all the way over here, which again is Jindabyne, however it's a different runway. This could be extremely tricky, as you're probably going to find out very quickly. We have a big mountain range to navigate, which there's a good chance we can't go straight over it, and you'll see why in a moment. But this is where we need to try and think smart about our travels, and we're going to go with some challenging early, about 6:16 a.m. early morning troubles with a bit of cloud, so this is not going to be easy. I'm telling you that right now. This is going to be a tricky one. So we're going to try this. We're going to give it a go. It could be tricky. Now, we're going to be flying in the Textron Cessna 172 Skyhawk today. It does not have autopilot, so we won't be using autopilot. And we probably won't be taxiing today, as there, well, is no taxiway here at Jindabyne. So we're just going to take straight off. I won't be showing you anything of the Textron Aviation 172 Skyhawk. So it'll all be ready to go and we're just going to take off. The main purpose of today's video is to show you how to navigate mountains with a plane that can only go around 130 knots. It can go a bit quicker. It can go up to 160, but it's not supposed to go too far over that at cruising speed. We're going to see how we go. We're going to give it a go. We're going to pop in there and then we're going to take off and go from there. So I'll see you guys in a moment once we pop in and click on fly. Alright, we are in. Welcome to Jindabyne. This is pretty exciting actually. The mountains are a bit taller than I expected, so it's going to take some navigation. What we're going to do is we are just going to get rid of this yoke visibility here. I do have some cameras set up already, as you can see while my camera is moving crazily like that. But what I like to do before we do anything, if you're in a hilly area and you're not sure how the area is and you want to make sure you can get up in the sky properly, I highly recommend you jump over here, you open up your showcase camera, turn your follow mode off, and then increase the speed of your drone. You have to use your keyboard or controller to do this, otherwise it won't go quick enough. And I like to just jump up, have a look, and see what my options are. Now, as far as I am concerned, we have to basically just navigate over this mountain. So here's a little tip. These planes do not climb very fast. They are slow climbers and they will stall if you don't climb. Sorry, if you climb too fast, they will stall. So what I would do in this situation, because I know our airport is over the mountain, is probably head straight up here, and I know we're going to probably want to head over this smaller part of the mountain and kind of navigate our way through there if we can. Again, you don't have to keep going along the same route if it doesn't look like you're going to make it over. You've just got to gradually get that height and then make it over. So we're going to give it a go anyway. Look, you're not in the plane in real life. You're not going to actually harm yourself here. So just do remember that. You can always try again. So we're going to jump in. Everything's already set. We're going to get rid of that yoke as well. Our flaps are already on, I think it's 10 degrees. Which is enough for us to take off. We really don't need them any higher. And our parking brake is now off and we're already ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I am going to give us some throttle. If you can see our airspeed indicator here, we want to try and get around there when we take off, and then hopefully we can start climbing around the 100 mark. We don't want to go too much higher than that, and then obviously if we get too slow we're going to stall, so we've got to be wary of that as well. We are going to take off. We're going to follow the purple magenta line, which is over here on our cockpit display. If we just follow that, which is pretty much straight out, we should be perfectly fine. And again, we're not going to exactly follow that. We're going to make sure we are comfortable enough to climb high enough to get over the mountain. So you don't have to follow the purple magenta precisely. In real life, you probably do. You'll probably get in trouble for not following it, which is why you would set your flight plan out. And you probably wouldn't fly this route in an aircraft this slow. But we're playing Flight Simulator. We're trying to make it realistic in terms of thinking about what we're going to do next, but at the same time, we're trying to have some fun. So, disclaimer before we do start, I probably should have said this earlier. Like I just said, this is just a semi-realistic way to enjoy the game. Give it a bit of thought as you do it, but also have some fun. So just always remember that. I don't care about the nitty-gritty stuff to an extent. I don't care how slow I'm supposed to be at a certain point. The rules in the air apply to real aircraft. If you want to enjoy it the realistic way, go ahead. I like doing that sometimes, but I don't know it all that well. Anyway, let's just get started. We're going to keep an eye on our altitude here. Obviously we're at 3,000 something already. And then we've got our airspeed calculation, which we're going to keep an eye on. And then that's obviously our horizontal line, so we know how high up in the air we're traveling. Alright, we're going to give ourselves some throttle. Not going to go all the way. Well, we probably are. It's going to be very close to the whole way. Stay on the line. And now do not pull back on your stick too hard. Now this is a very difficult takeoff because obviously that's not a proper runway, not a tarmac. Anyway, keep an eye on your airspeed. It should get around here when you're successfully able to take off. If you can't, well, good luck. No, if you can't, you'll take off a bit earlier. You'll just have to be a lot slower with your takeoff, that's all. Just don't pull up too much on the stick. So we aren't going to get to that speed probably in time to take off here, but we're going to take off. We don't want to wait too long here. We're about to go off the mountain, so take off very slowly. And you can see we're already pulling back quite on the stick here, and we're already losing a bit of airspeed, so you can't go any higher than this. It's already too dangerous, and there's no way we're going to make it over those mountains at this speed. So we're going to start turning, and we're just going to avoid these mountains. We don't want to risk it. If we get too close, we can't really turn back, because you can't bank the plane that much either. So just make sure you have that in mind. We're going to go outside view and just kind of see how we're travelling. You don't have this luxury in real life, obviously. But you can see we're travelling at a pretty good rate here. We're not quite quick enough. So we're just going to keep on going. We may have to go around the mountain a bit more. Now, I could risk it and kind of go through there, if you can see that. But that might be a little bit too risky. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep going to the right. Keep slowly climbing. We're at 100 knots now. That's good news. But we obviously don't have the height to go over these mountains just yet. You know what? How beautiful is this scenery? Well, we have a chance to have a look. It is quite stunning here at Jindabyne. I actually stay over there when I come here, so it's a really nice area. It is stunning, Lake Jindabyne. All the ski slopes are over here as well, if you didn't know. You probably won't be able to see them on here. I don't think I've gone and chucked them out on the game just yet. Anyway, less about that and more about the matter at hand. So you just want to keep going. Now obviously here we can determine if we're going to make this hill or not, or this mountain, and it looks like we are. We're at a pretty good speed. If we had went straight over, it would have been way too risky. Like, it's not worth the risk. Obviously, it doesn't matter, you can do it again. However, you're better off just doing everything the safe and efficient way. We're going to lift up our flaps. And we're just going to keep on going here. We're dropping a little bit. We need to make sure we're climbing. Just a bit of concentration there. But that's okay. Going to keep on going. We're going to start turning because I'm pretty confident we can pass this mountain now. We don't want to get too close for realism purposes, but again, it's okay. Our speed's good enough. We're not under 80 knots. That's probably when you'd be a bit worried. The fact we have enough airspeed means I can make a bit of a turn here, and you can see we're pretty comfortably clear of it now. So, decent effort. That's what we wanted. We don't want to be too close to it, and we don't want our airspeed to be too low. I've seen too many cases of that occurring, and yeah, then that's when the game becomes a little less fun. You kind of want to make sure you do everything realistically and properly, just to make sure you get to the destination. Be a bit patient. You don't need to try and beat everybody there. Yeah, I can't stress that enough. Like, no one's having a race on here, let's be honest. And then that's where the realism aspect comes, from my point of view anyway. You're trying to have some fun, but you also, you know, want to keep it as realistic as possible, which is what these tutorials are all about. A bit of realism, but also a bit of fun, because we don't give a shit about the rules, because in real life, you wouldn't be flying this crazily, or this close to the mountains, probably. Very unlikely. Anyway, this landing might be a bit tricky. We are losing a bit of airspeed here, but like I said, we have a bit of leeway with the mountains below us. We can lower our nose a little bit and gain a bit more airspeed. And then we will start turning in a second. We do need to get back onto our magenta line. And again, I'm not going to turn too much because we've got to make sure we get over these mountains. We have a couple of people ahead of us, very high up in the air. They are both, well, I can't even tell what the guy on the right's in because it's blending in with the clouds. The guy on the left, I think it's an A320 Neo. I think that's an A20. And there you go. We are heading back towards our magenta line. We don't have to head towards it directly. You You can sort of turn. I'm pretty sure we're clear of the mountain below us. I'm just going to double check. We are. And now we can just softly climb and just make sure we successfully get over these mountain ranges here. The descent is going to be a bit tricky. It's going to be steep. But you know what? We're gonna see what it's like. That's the fun part. I find the descent to be a lot more fun than the climb. The thought of navigating through mountains probably is the best part about it. But yeah, just trying to land the plane is very exciting, especially when you stuff it up. Alright, so we just need to make sure we're still gradually climbing and not flattening out here. We also want to keep an eye on our airspeed. So again, that mountain above, ahead, looks like we might not be high enough to pass, so we just need to slowly and gradually climb here without losing our airspeed. What we might do, we might just flatten out of here a bit, get a bit of airspeed. That's always an option. You can always start diving a little bit, not completely. Get a bit of airspeed and then start climbing. We're obviously going to be heading towards the lowest points of the mountain as much as possible, just to make sure we can gradually increase our height. And you can see our altitude on the altitude knob is slowly increasing, which means we are climbing. It may not seem like it when you're looking straight ahead, but well, trust me, we're climbing. Now obviously we're not going to dive straight over those mountains because we're probably not going to make it. We're going to keep an eye out and we're going to go into our best possible route, which looks like around that way. That looks like our safest option. And I did choose this weather to make it a bit more challenging, because it is pretty hard to see out there. It may look easy on the video, but trust me, from what I can see right now, it is not too easy. Alright, we're climbing and we actually have a pretty good airspeed rate here, so I'm not too panicked, which is good. We're just going to keep on going, gradually climb. If we climb any higher than this, we'll probably stall. So very important we keep going like this. And I love the way the sun is shining through the clouds up on the mountains here. It is pretty stunning. Very nice area of Australia, this. Very foggy. Alright, so we're going to keep going. Our airspeed's okay. We're climbing still. And it looks like we are, as you can see, just under Scruffy's name there. We should pass the peak pretty comfortably. We obviously, the magenta line is to our right, and we probably will make that mountain. I'm going to have to make a decision if I want to try and just go straight on our route, which I feel pretty comfortable that we're going to clear it. So I'm going to slowly turn, not fully, I'm going to slowly turn towards it, and we're going to aim for above the mountain. I think we're pretty good. For a minute there it looked like we'd have to do the long route, but I think we should make it. Worst case, we'll turn to the left, but I think we're going to be okay as long as we keep climbing slightly. And I think around 7,000 feet is a pretty safe bet. We will find out in a moment, won't we? Alright, we'll keep going, gradually see how we're going to go, and hopefully we make it over safely. At the moment, it's looking okay, as you can see. It's deceiving. When you're in the cockpit, it looks like you're getting a hit, doesn't it? But in theory, we're pretty safe. We're going to turn to the right a little bit because I think we can make it over, and if you have a look, we are pretty much level with the horizon. We should be fine as we head towards Ozflyer, and we're pretty much on line with our magenta line. If we bring up our map, I do that by pressing V on my keyboard. Once we get over the mountain, we're pretty good to start descending to our airport. Go straight in, actually. Whoops. You'll have to apologise, I'm normally not that preoccupied. But anyway, that doesn't matter too much. We didn't climb too heavily. We just got to turn right and make sure we stay on a magenta line. So that's the good thing. If you have enough airspeed and you accidentally lose concentration and you do start climbing randomly without realising it, you shouldn't stall as long as you don't do a front flip or a back flip or a barrel roll, I should call it in flight terms. You'll be okay because we have enough airspeed to cover and recover. If you're too low, then you don't have any airspeed to recover. Alright, I think we are doing okay here. And then once we get over that mountain, we can probably start descending. We can just ease into our airport. We're going to be manually landing the plane, so it's going to be a bit visual. There's going to be no autopilot here like there was with the TBM 930. So this is a good bit of a learning curve for everybody to sort of navigate based on visual and know when to start descending. It's personal preference as Ozfly goes in for his descent. That was a very quick descent actually from where he was. I don't know if he might be in a jet. Not too sure. Alright, we ended up, I think, pretty comfortably clearing the mountain. Relatively comfortably. And now we're just going to follow the magenta line, really, and start descending once we get over that mountain range. Because I think the airport is pretty close after. It is. So we don't have any landing gear. We want to make sure we have our flaps probably on, I think it's 20 degrees for landing. You can even have it on 10. Honestly, I think you'll stop in time depending on the runway. We might put it on 20 to be safe. Alright, so we are starting to descend here slightly. We don't really need to stay this high in the air. I'll give you a bit of a view so you can have a look around. I chose a beautiful time to go. It is on live weather, just not live time, because it is like 8 PM at night here in my time zone in Australia. But it is still on live weather, so apparently this is the weather agenda mine. I'm thinking the airport is probably down there somewhere. Hopefully it's tarmac. Now, I don't remember what it was, because it can be very tricky to spot non-tarmac airports. One thing I will always recommend, if you can't spot the airport at a reasonable distance, or the runway I should say, go around. Do not try and risk the landing. If you wanna just have fun, yeah, sure, do it. That's fine. As I said, I like to have fun, but I also like to keep it as realistic as possible. So the realism part for me is stuff like that, where I can go around and I can do that sort of thing. Whereas the fun aspect, you know, I don't have to worry about rules or regulations in terms of airspeed, and you know, I don't need to know perfectly how to set the plane up. I would be terrible at that. Alright, so we're going to keep going. Every time I look at the map, I'm pretty adamant that's where the airport is, and you can see on the map, the runway is right on the water. And you can see the water down there, so we're presuming the runway is about there somewhere. That could be it in the background, actually. So if we zoom in, it's literally next to that river. The runway's right there. Alright, so what we can do is we can start ascending. Drop a bit of airspeed. We don't really need a lot of it right now. We're probably going a bit too quick, actually. I just had a look at our airspeed. I'm just going to drop it halfway as we start descending. So that is also important. Lucky I didn't go over it, but it's not too big of a deal. See, we're kind of borderlining there. So I've dropped my throttle by half, and we're still maintaining a good airspeed. So remember, you don't need to have your throttle full to descend. It's always a good idea to reduce it, to descend. You can always use flaps as well. That's also a good idea. Alright, so we're just having a look. Still can't see the runway. We're going to give it a bit of power here, just to make sure we don't lose too much airspeed. Alright, it's definitely not tarmac. I would have seen it by now, I think. Alright, we're just going to... Once we get down to that area, we should be okay. Alright, so our airspeed's climbing again. We're going to drop our speed in general using our throttle control, which should help us drop down a little bit. And you can hear the engine. I don't know if you can hear it very well. Probably not. But yeah, it is dropping considerably. Our gears are already down because we don't even bring them up. What we won't do is we won't put our flaps down just yet. We could probably land without them, to be honest, but we'll see what happens in terms of that. Alright, we're going to do a bit of a zoom in. Still can't see anything. We're going to produce some more power here. We need to descend at a bit better of a rate. Okay. Going to have a look at our map while we're trying to concentrate still. Alright. Going to have a look for our runway. We will do a go around if we cannot find the airport. Very hard to spot. Alright. This is a tricky one. So according to this, the runway is just before the start of the river. So it should be around here somewhere. That could be it there, actually. Alright, our airspeed is okay. It's not too bad. We're going to drop a couple of flaps levels now, which means we have to add power. I'm pretty sure that's the runway. Alright, we have visual. If it's not, and we're going in late, then we're in trouble, but if you zoom in here, yep, it is the runway. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in over the water. Okay, our airspeed's a bit low. Alright, so you can see it there. Alright, we're going to not drop too much airspeed. So make sure it's not going below 80. We want to land it around this rate. We don't want to land too quick. But at the same time, just gotta be careful. Like, keep an eye on it. Drop your throttle if you need to. Look, add some power if it's starting to go too far down. We're probably a little bit steep on this descent, but that's okay. They are small planes, they're not beast planes. Okay, drop some airspeed. We're not at too steep of a bank angle. And again, look how slow we're going. There's no worry here about overshooting the runway. Okay. Then we can come in, fix that descent. And at the moment, our airspeed is right where we want it. I'm actually presuming this is the runway still. I don't actually know if it is, but we're going to go with it because I said it was. It looks like it's supposed to be. Okay, turns out there's a tarmac, I think. There actually is a runway. Wasn't quite expecting that, but anyway, we're going to land on the grass because I think that runway is a bit too... We're going to land here. Oh, look at that. We ended up landing perfectly. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's a runway that keeps going and it kind of turns off. I think they give you a lot of leeway, and that ended up being a really decent landing. There's not a lot of room if that is supposed to be the tarmac, and I'm pretty sure it is because of the markings there. And if we press V, yeah, it definitely was the runway. And that is actually that. We're going to pop the parking brake on. Pretty much all I did, sorry, I forgot to explain, but when I landed, I just dropped the throttle. And you could see we were around there, I think, when we landed. I'll probably look back and realise I wasn't, but that was one of my smoother landings. If you watched the previous video, that was a lot smoother. But I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, the most important thing was we navigated those disastrous mountains pretty comfortably in the end, I thought. And yeah, so I do recommend, if you are practicing, don't do what I did and just fly somewhere you've never flown before. Like, I've been around the area, but not this side anyway, so I didn't really know where I was landing. Sometimes it's good to know where you're going and know the area, so you'll always know that your runway is off the water there. But yeah, I hope you guys learnt something from that in terms of navigation, and try to make things fun and realistic at the same time. We're not trying to take things too seriously here on the channel, but I do want to give you some quick, well, as quick as possible tips as well, and hopefully everyone can make some progress from there in their flight simulation experience. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I will be making some more tutorials in the future. If you do want some, pop a comment below and I'll happily respond to you. I will take criticism as well for things I'm doing wrong. Again, not taking it too seriously, but I will always accept criticism. To me, that's a good thing to only get better in yourself, whether that's making videos or being good at tutorials in general. So please do leave comments, hit the like button if you did enjoy it, and make sure you do subscribe if you want to stay up to date with what's coming out in the future. You will get a notification as well if you hit the notification bell. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and thank you so much again for the support in the previous video. I look forward to talking to you all again soon in the future, hopefully not too far away. I'll catch you guys in the next one.